Okay, so here's round 5. Again, I'm white. The Colombian IM is black. Okay, so I didn't play that. I played this, and then we played this. And now he stepped into my preparation. He played g6, I played g4, bishop g7, dc5, queen a5. Okay, so this is preparation. I had this in my CPT, and I had that this was a very strong opening for me because after bishop d2, queen takes c5. Do you guys know what the best move is here? It's not a move that you would think of, but it's very strong. Does anyone know what the best move is here? If you guys watch my CPT training, you might remember what the move is here. But it's a very computery move. It's not a move that you would think of, you know. Like you'd think, okay, maybe knight f3 or bishop d3 or something of that nature. But the best move here is actually to play this move knight to d5. And it looks kind of crazy, but it's like, are you moving the same piece twice in the opening? Like you're not even threatening anything really. Why is this so good? Well, it turns out this move is actually really hard to meet because it's hard for him to kind of control this c7 square. This queen has a hard time keeping tabs on this square, believe it or not. So for example, a natural move like knight c6 just loses to knight c7. And there's also tricks, for example, as you'll see in the game actually. I'll show you what happens in the game, but this is actually really strong. And GPAC, b4 does actually come into play in some lines. So yeah, like you play b4 at some point, and when they move their queen, you kind of ignore this bishop takes rook, because when you take back, you have like some sort of dual threat. You're like threatening the rook and you're threatening something else. But yeah, so watch what happens. So he plays b6. The point is he wants to tuck his queen on b7 to help defend against this. So I play bishop b4. And now he only has one square for his queen, where he can defend this c7 square. So he has to play queen c6. Now I take advantage of some tactics to play bishop to b5. And so I force his queen to this awkward square, and I gain a tempo. So if queen takes bishop, of course, knight c7,
check,
and I fork his entire army. Whoops. So he can't take. And his queen actually only has one square to go to. I mean, again, if queen e6, knight c7,
check.
and again, I fork his whole army. So the geometry works where he has to play queen to b7. And now, what to do here? What to do here? So what do you guys think white should play here? This is an important point, actually. This is an important point. What should white play here? Because white is definitely better. You notice I have 3 pieces out. Black has 1. And this bishop isn't probably going anywhere for a while. And they're well posted. And I have a pawn in the center. Black really only has b6 and g6 developed. So white's definitely much better. But what should white do here? Because, if I kind of just develop normally, the problem is that black can kind of kick my pieces away and start to develop himself. So yeah, very, very good. Queen to f3. Yeah. So the point of queen to f3 is simply develop the queen and potentially get queen to g3 on the cards. And that's probably going to be pretty good. So So yeah, queen to f3 is slightly better than knight to f3 because this knight's gonna come to f3, but I'm gonna kind of get my queen involved with a gain of tempo. So he plays knight c6, and now I play bishop c3. And here he actually probably has to play the ugly king to f8 just to kind of hold things together. But he plays f6, and now this bishop is just dead. So I play queen g3, getting ready to play knight f3, and also hitting the c7 square. So he has to block that, so he plays d6. Now his position just looks really ugly. And there's a variety of things I can do here, actually. I mean, pretty much any legal move is quite good. So a move like h4 is strong, with the idea of playing h5 and weakening the king side. A move like queenside castle, just to get this rook out, is quite strong. Even just rook d1 without castling. All of those are quite reasonable and probably quite good. I chose to play knight to f3. Okay, so he plays a6, taking my bishop. I bring it back. Okay, he plays bishop d7, a castle. Plays knight h6. Okay, what do you guys think I should play here? So I've developed all my pieces now, but I have to form a plan. So what to do here? Yeah, I think I played the optimal move the first 19 moves of the game here. Because I believe this move that I played is actually best. So it's actually hard to find a legitimate way to break through. Like, my pieces are great, his pieces are terrible. And he has a bunch of kind of like loose squares, but nothing super concrete. Nothing super concrete. So I have to ask myself, what's my target? And do you guys know what my target is? It's a bit obscure. But do you guys know what my target is here? So my target is actually going to be these two squares. And it's a bit hidden as to how I'm going to actually be attacking those squares. But what I want to do is get rid of this knight and then simply play bishop d4 and bishop b6 and then try to get my knight to c7. So yeah, these sacks just never quite work. I thought about it for a while. I thought about knight takes f6. It just I could never quite make it work. Yeah, I thought about taking an f6, taking on d6. Yeah, it just doesn't ever quite work, unfortunately. Because the problem is I need this knight in order to have something, right? So like if I take here and he just takes back and take, like I don't really have anything here now. If I had a knight here, it would be great. And the problem is if I take with the bishop, then he can take with the bishop, and then again I have to give up my knight in order to get my queen in. And I just really don't have quite enough here. He can play like something like king f7, for example, and then connect his rooks, and I'm just down a piece. I don't have enough compensation, unfortunately. I thought about it for a while, but I actually hit upon the right idea here, which is knight to d4. So it looks weird that I actually want to exchange pieces, but it turns out that like he can't really exchange, right? Because if I take,
Check.
okay, now no matter how he takes, he's in trouble. If he takes with the king, bishop takes, and now all of a sudden I'm threatening this fork, so I win a pawn by force, and his king is in trouble. If he takes with the queen, I again take here, and again I'm threatening this fork, and so he can get out of it, but I still win a pawn. And not to mention his position is very squirrely. Like this knight is kind of stuck. I'm not really sure he can castle right away, etc. So I have a great advantage here too. So he can't really trade. And my idea is simply at some point maybe just take on c6, take on a6, and play bishop d4. So he plays b5, and he forces my bishop to b3, which is something that Higgs wanted me to do, and so I do, and it's good. Okay, now he plays rook f8, which I didn't expect really. I thought like he might try something like, no, can he castle here? I forget. So if I take, he can take with the bishop. Yeah, I think if he castled, I was just gonna play like a4 or something. Oops. A4. I just try to break it open. If he plays b4, I can like take and then play bishop d4, and now he's in some trouble, I think, because he can't really take here. I'm gonna play like c3 next, maybe, or maybe like rook fb1 first, then c3. Oh, maybe even just a5 and bishop knight b6 first, and then like try to win this. I mean, it's bad news for him. Okay, but he plays rook f8. I'm not really sure what this did. I mean, obviously he can't castle because I have a discovery with this knight, but rook f8 just seems bad. Maybe what he should do is he should just take here, knight d4, bishop d4, and play bishop c6, and try to hold on to this position. I play bishop b6 maybe. Rook c8, like bishop a5, something like this. And now his king still can't really castle. And my bishops are quite strong. So maybe now I just go for something like h4, h5. Okay, but in any case, he played rook f8. So here, again, I open up an avenue for attack, and I play a4, which is strong. So he takes, which is correct. Take. Now he plays e5. So he kicks my bishop and gives his king a bit of breathing room, but he creates a weakness now. This knight is a permanent knight on d5, and there's a weakness on d6. So he kind of sacrifices something in order to kick my bishop. I simply play bishop e3. And now he plays b takes a4. So he kind of opens up my rook for me. And now the best move is actually the computer-esque rook takes a4. The point being that if take, this king is actually in some danger. He goes something like king here. I have bishop b6 check, and queen c3 check, and he's almost getting mated there. In fact, he is getting mated there. Check. Mate.
Checkmate.
So can't run that way. And if he runs this way, well, I mean, I can always play something like bishop b3. You know, basically force him to come back here. And then I always have something like maybe bishop b6. Try to get a knight c7. Also have ideas of playing like queen h3 to e6. It's very hard for him to defend his light squares. But okay, I mean, it's really a bit unnecessary. So I just take with the bishop, which is, it's fine. So he takes, I take. And now he has all sorts of problems because a big threat I have is queen h3, which forks this knight, but also threatens queen e6, which just wins instantly. So he has to somehow stop that. So probably relatively best for him is to play this move knight to f5 with the idea that if I take, he takes, and then after queen h3, play knight e7. And I mean, he's in terrible shape here, but at least he's not like losing by force. I mean, at the very least, I can just take on h7, I think. Well, maybe I take here first. Because if I take on h7 immediately, I think he can go rook h8. Oh, no, he can't. No, never mind. So I just take on h7, I think. Oh, I forgot this is hanging. Yeah, and then I'm threatening to take the knight and take on g6. And I mean, it's bad news for him, but... Okay, but after rook a4, he plays king f7 instead. Okay, so I'm completely winning here, but how do I finish the job? How do I finish the job? Yeah. Actually, GPAC, you're right. That is the move. So rook to b4. So I basically just want to try to get my rook onto the 6th or the 7th rank. So rook to b4 is the way to do it. Okay, so rook b4. And now his queen doesn't really have much place to go. Okay, so he plays queen c6. And now, do you guys know what the best move is here? This one is tricky. So yeah, do you guys know what the best move is here? I'll give you guys a few seconds. Yeah, so Zwish actually has the right idea. I do want to get this queen to b3. I do want to get this queen to b3. Because I have a dual threat then. I'm threatening to play rook b7, and I'm also threatening to discover this knight someplace nasty. Maybe like a knight c7 with queen e6 to come. But where does this bishop go? Turns out that the best square for this bishop is actually c1. Because if I take on h6, the problem is I give his king this flight square. And he can survive. But by playing bishop c1, now I'm still on this knight. Oops, that's a bad arrow. I'm still on this knight, but I'm also just playing queen b3. So for example, rook fb8, queen b3. And now he can't take because this is check.
Check.
And I win the queen. So he's in a pickle because I'm forking this and I'm forking something dreadful. So this is quite strong. But bishop c1 is the right square. I mean, there are multiple ways to win here. So I played rook b6, which is also quite good. Also quite good. And so he takes on c2, which he can't really do. Okay. So now chess tempo time. So white to move and win. White to move and win. This is a little tactics trainer exercise. So it's all forced. White to move and win. It's a long line. Well, not long, but I mean, there's a whole line involved. And again, there's multiple ways to win. There are multiple ways to win, but this is actually the nicest, I think. So the way to do it is rook b7.
Check.
First. Okay. So if king e8, which is actually relatively best, by the way, king e8 is actually best, if you believe it or not. And after this move, Houdini rates me modestly up 40 points of material. So I'm plus 40 here. I mean, it's a small advantage, plus 40. So it's roughly I'm up for 4.5 queens after king e8, and this is actually best. Because he actually walks into a mate with king to g8. So I actually have forced mate here. And the way I do it is knight e7 check.
Check.
And knight takes g6 check.
Check.
Breaking open this g file. And now he has mate issues on g7. After h takes g6, I can't play queen takes g6 right away because of something like rook f7. And if bishop takes h6, rook takes b7. And if take, all of a sudden this is not completely clear, right? Like, it's just like even material all of a sudden. So I have to be careful not to get too excited, but rather than taking on g6 first, simply bishop takes h6. And now the point is, if he takes, I take, and I'm threatening two mates. And he can't stop both. So this little intermezzo, bishop takes h6, makes the whole tactic work. So now this is forced mate, actually. He takes on e4. I play bishop takes g7 check.
Check.
He plays king g8. And now I actually have a mate in 5. Do you guys see it? I actually missed it during the game. But I do have a mate in 5. So do you guys see the mate in 5? It's a tricky one to see, actually. But if you're told about it, it's much easier. If you're told about it, it's much easier. Yeah. So queen b3.
Check.
It's funny. It's really funny why this works. So the point is, like, he's threatening this. So queen b3.
Check.
If here, then I go check.
Check.
And mate.
Checkmate.
So that's the main idea, is to play this mate. But by playing queen b3, if he plays d5, now he's blocked from this, and now I can play queen h3. And now this is unstoppable mate. It's a very cute idea, forcing this line closure so that I can mate. So yeah, basically all he has here is like play queen takes g2 to postpone it for a move. And actually, I think relatively what his best is like is play this or something, and then take
Check.
and then play here. So now my queen can't get to the h file. But I mean, obviously this is just hopeless, right? And so yeah, I think just
Check.
this and this, and then mate next move. But yeah, I was worried that my rook was hanging, and I just missed this idea of closing the line. It's very pretty. It's very pretty. So instead I took on f8, which, I mean, I'm still winning, but I'm not mating by force anymore. So he takes on b7, now I take on d6. So I'm just up a piece now, and his king is very exposed. So it shouldn't be too difficult to convert this. Like, he has no time to take this, for example. So he plays king f7. I play queen h3 with a threat of queen h7. He plays rook g8, and now it's over. He should play king g7. And then after rook d1, queen c8, I mean, you know, it's a pretty easy win for me. I can just hold on to this pawn, activate my rook, and eventually win. Especially since these pawns are not on the same files as these pawns, but it's a bit of a technical exercise. But instead, he kind of just succumbs pretty quickly. After queen h3, he played rook g8. And now I'm again completely crushing because of this move, rook to c1. And now there's nothing he can do to stop a rook c7 and queen e6. Whoops, queen e6. So he tries rook c8, but you know, I realize that queens move diagonally, and so I simply play queen takes c8, and he resigns.